The RPA Today Show, hosted by Howze and Wilton. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. This show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Good day, good evening, wherever you are, people all over the world. The RPA Show is back. We're back with another session. My co-host, Wilton, the automation guy, is somewhere. Where are you? Are you back home now? Are you back home?
I'm back in Austin, yes.
Back in Austin. Yep. But this virtual world puts us all in the same living room. And today in the living room, we have a fantastic guest, man. We have a fantastic guest here in our virtual living room with us, don't we?
We sure do. I can't wait. And you know, we've had some experience with him, and we're working on some projects. So yeah, I'm excited about this one for sure.
So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know that the goal of this show is to educate you, educate so you can automate, but just get educated. And I think education comes from, watching and learning from other people's experiences. So we have Zachery Burns here. And Zachery is going to share some insight. I suggest you either take some notes, use your phone or paper, or maybe just go ahead and review this video again. Zachery is a fintech executive and an RPA entrepreneur. All right. We asked him what his thoughts on robotic process automation was. He said, automate or die. We're going to find out what that means and what he meant by that. We asked him, what technology trends do you see on the horizon? We'll find out. We'll ask him that question. He believes that everyone is automating. I mean, macro economic conditions are putting companies' margins at risk. Okay, workforce dynamics are stressing supply chain resilience. So automating your manual redundant task will define who succeeds in the future. Zachery, welcome to the show, and thank you for those words.
Rob, I appreciate it. Wilton, thank you both for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today, and I hope this is all about the audience. So I hope they get a lot out of it, and I hope it's an informative show for them.
Well, I'm sure it will be, because we're going to talk about your experience. And first, why don't we go ahead and share, with the good people, like what you do, like what's your heartbeat of what you do? What's the passion of what you do, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, Rob, it's a good question. I appreciate the intro. You mentioned this automate or die, right? And so there's a little bit of theater in this, and so I hope it's educational and it's entertaining. And so
edutainment, we love it.
And so I took a big first step there, but I think there's a lot of things that lead that to be true. And so if you look at the business environment today, and you're a business owner, and you're looking for ways to compete, maybe stabilize some things in your business, there's a lot of macroeconomic trends that a lot of people are throwing out, forecast and some other things. We could get into that, but I think automation is a way to firm up a lot of those things. The Jerome Powell and the Fed are hiking interest rates. A lot of the people in Wall Street that are paid to predict the future think that the chances of a recession are moderate at the least. And so we went through this cycle as a nation where things were running well. COVID hit. Then there was this work from home economy. Big tech made a lot of moves. Stock market was on a tear after the initial dip. And so I think there's this expectation that a lot of that momentum from some of these companies continues. And so it seems to just be the expectation in the that is kind of put out there that companies will continue to grow and they'll continue to have this killer margin expansion. But I think the fact of the matter is a lot of businesses are challenged with that, right? And so, there's things in the labor market. It's the tightest that it's ever been. I think there's 2 job openings for every job candidate right now, and that may be changing a little bit as companies do some things to kind of right size to those expectations.
Wow.
And I think a lot of the experts are like, those companies that are able to automate are going to be the ones that survive and thrive and do well. And I think that's really kind of at the heart of what robotic process automation, or RPA, is. It's taking these repetitive tasks, rule-based tasks that are happening every day inside your organization, other organizations, and solving that through automation. And there's a lot of benefits to it. Not only do you achieve scale through that, but there's a lot of other kind of ancillary benefits in terms of the speed at which some of these tasks are being done, the accuracy at which some of these tasks are being done. And so I think as a whole, it's a solution that I think a lot of businesses should take a look at if they're not taking a look at it already.
Well, and so it's hard. It's very difficult for people to make changes and adjustments. We're creatures of habit, human beings. This is how we live and thrive. Unfortunately, how we live and thrive can kind of be our hindrance. Because complacency can put you in a bad predicament. How does someone look at even beginning to look at this? Because what we've experienced is RPA has just been a 3-letter word. It's foreign, and automation, if they've never done it, it's just not even on their screen. How are you seeing the best ways to introduce this idea of technology to people and companies? How have you seen it work?
It's a good question, Rob. I think to some extent, like, the market's doing a lot of the work for us, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a small business owner, or mid-sized business owner, or even a large business owner, I think you're already thinking of ways like, how do I solve this labor problem? Prices, wages are going up, across the spectrum, maybe more in the mid to lower income bands, right? And you might have people in the seats doing some task for you that you're having a tough time filling, and you would forecast your business at X cost, and now it's X plus Y from a cost basis. And so I think the market is already doing a lot of the work in terms of creating the problem, maybe isn't the right way to put it, but maybe creating an opportunity to improve. And so I think the market's doing a lot of work there, and I think business owners, if they start looking for how to solve that problem, I think RPA's got to hit their radar, and I think that the thing to do from that perspective is to find a company that's familiar with it, that resonates with you, that you can build some rapport with, and that can take the time to understand your business. And, once you find that company that can help you from an RPA perspective, then I think that's kind of your concierge to maybe understanding what it can provide to your business. So I think that's maybe the way that it starts. But I truly believe in it. That's why we've started our company, ZD3 Group. That's working in conjunction with Wilton. It's Simply Automate, and those guys have been terrific to help bring some of these solutions to life.
What have you seen? I mean, you brought up a good point. You said that, obviously the industry's seen a need for more workers. I mean, we see, we always see people looking for, help. Do you see RPA as a benefit to say, wait, before you start hiring, why don't you figure out, what can be automated before you start hiring? Because, for us, we've actually seen clients saying, before we get involved with you, we want to, we need to bring some people on board. And I sit down and tell them, wait a minute, before you bring anybody on board, let's figure out what you need to automate before you start bringing on board. Do you see clients that you've talked to, or do you see opportunity with the lack of personnel, do you see RPA filling in that gap? Have you seen that?
Absolutely, absolutely, Wilton. I think wholeheartedly it fills in that gap. I think to touch on or expand on a couple of the points that you touched on, there's a couple things, right? So if I take myself out of kind of like an RPA, business owner, service provider perspective, and I put myself in the shoes of another business owner that's looking to do some automation, there's a couple things, right? There's certainly a cost to the automation, and there's different packages out there, but you should achieve scale, right? Whether it's through upfront with the maintenance package or subscription package, whatever that looks like. And so I think finding a place in your budget, to make the investment into the RPA is certainly something that these business owners need a little bit of consulting on, right? And I think that's part of it, right? Finding a way for it to fit inside the envelope of their budget. And then the other thing is, when you're automating these tasks, the business owner, and this is something we're getting more and more familiar with, and coming up with better ways to help our clients kind of solve these problems, is how do you really reap the benefit of the RPA? So if it's inside the shop and it's now supplementing or fully replacing a process that used to be a manual task inside your organization, how do you as a business owner really get the value from that, right? And it could be through a headcount reduction, right? But I was reading a book and it's slipping my mind at the time, but they didn't call them headcount; they called them heart count, because those were like people inside the business that you supported and built a relationship. And so, sometimes people have an aversion, rightfully so, to like eliminating the heart count, and so are there ways that you can repurpose some of those individuals, and then we as kind of an RPA organization have met a lot of great people from the client side, these businesses that we're helping, that are very meticulous, very methodical, and they're perfect pedigree for RPA, right? So, to the extent they do want to cut someone loose, we may have an interest in bringing some of those people on board on our shop, just because we've seen them do phenomenal things, just from like a unit contribution perspective, and really becoming a subject matter expert in what they're good at. And so, how do you get the value after you implement an RPA, is something that we of course try to help our clients with. And you guys may have some experience with that as well that you want to share, but that's how we kind of think about the business, because you make an investment and then how do you get that value back? And those two things are closely tied together. And there's a lot of benefits, right? It could be speed, accuracy, cost savings, et cetera. And so those things can manifest themselves in business through different types of competitive advantages, right? And so how do they kind of retool their strategy based on what they've then achieved as some of those competitive advantages?
Right. That's good. That's good. What would you say, Zachery? What would you say I'm sure there's been a lot, but let's narrow it down to the biggest impact you've seen RPA have. Like, doesn't matter the industry, so something that's off the top of your mind. What's the biggest impact you've seen RPA have for a company?
I think I think maybe if you're interested in automating, right? I think that the state of the art, just in terms of the RPA technology, is really come a long way, right? And I think that business owners may be blown away with the amount of stuff that can be automated, right? And it's moving around data, up to and including different OCR capabilities, and so you may have had a person looking at something and moving it from one type of medium, whether it's a email or a fax or whatever old stuff is coming into the shop, or new stuff, and then what the technology can do to execute on the steps that person is executing on, and I think that they'd be surprised to see some of the savings. I mean, it's you take a group of people that are doing something manually, And if there is still some sort of subjective thing that's happening, to where a person needs to make a decision, there's still smart ways, with the right RPA providers to automate that to the point to where all that person is focusing on is that human component of it. And you can reduce the effort, the manual effort in that process, by 75%, all the way to 100%. The thing about they call them, the robotic process automation bots. The bots are fantastic in the sense that they don't really care about holidays. They'll work over the weekend. They don't really get sick. And so they're pretty reliable. And so there's of course some things that you need to be mindful of. Some nuances. But they're incredibly durable when built correctly, and they're incredibly reliable when built correctly. And so, if you're out there and you're interested in this stuff and you want to reach out to some RPA experts, I think those are some things that I would certainly ask some questions about. And typically it's something where, you can have a conversation with somebody that knows what they're talking about, and they can tell you, yep, we can absolutely automate that 100%, or we can automate that and we can really kind of put the manual piece in focus to where it's not as broad as it is today. And we can let the bots do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then you can either let it run completely unattended, or if it needs to be attended by a person, you can have somebody that's just executing on what must be executed from a manual perspective.
You brought up a great point. I think reaching out to a company that has that expertise is important. I think where we see a lot of the opportunities are with the small, medium-sized businesses, small, medium-sized enterprises that, especially small, medium-sized enterprise that understand RPA, but don't have the bandwidth or the resources to really take full advantage of that. I think prior to a couple of years ago, it was all pretty much large enterprise, right? But we knew software was going to change and it's going to be available for everybody. It's actually truly available for everybody right now. Where do you see most of the opportunities right now? Have you seen any opportunities within the mid-sized enterprise? Where are you starting to see a little bit more of the conversations happen?
I think that's a great point. I think in part it's a power to weight ratio, right? And so larger organizations, the larger your organization is, the more you have the opportunity to, I think, scale up. The bot is you can think of it in terms of development and maintenance, right? And so if I'm developing and maintaining to replace 1 hour a day from Wilton's task, the power to weight ratio is going to be very light, right? Your RPA expert may advise you that it's not worth it, right? If it's an hour a day, right? And so if you have 5 people doing it, you're certainly going to get some value out of it. If you have 2 people doing it, you're probably going to get some value out of it. And if you have 20 people doing something, you're absolutely going to get some value out of it. And so I think it kind of boils down to power to weight ratio. And I think that I think people are so impressed with what like a solid RPA can do. It's designed right, and it does exactly what you need it to do. It's monitored well, it's durable, that it's sometimes hard for these business owners to stop automating. Like once they get in there and they understand like what it can do, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's like fire. You're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing on the planet. So I think once people get in there and really see what it can do, it's hard to not keep going with it. And I think you're going to have some early adopters, just like any kind of, the technology has been around for a long time, and the automation's been around for a long time. But I think the state of it and what it can do today is very impressive, and what it can do kind of at scale is very impressive. And I think you're going to have some people that are early entrants into the RPA space, and then I think you're going to have some people that maybe get caught flat-footed, and they're going to find themselves in a in a tougher situation where, you know, they're competing with people with lower cost structures, more disruptions, as they're trying to staff correctly in some of these things. And so I think you're going to have some early entrants, you know, you're going to have some the mainstream, and you're going to have some people that get caught flat-footed. And, you know, I would encourage everybody out there listening to take a nice hard look at what RPA may be able to do in your business. There's a lot of people that are more than happy to have a conversation with you, and you can at least get a sense of what it may be able to do for you, you know, and take the next steps if it works for you. And I think that for the majority of people, it certainly will. And the sooner the better, in my opinion.
Great opinion. Great opinion. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. The sooner the better. And I think I call, you know, over the last year, I've been saying price and demand, right? So, you know, it's really in the favor of the client right now, of the business right now, to really to look into it. But I think you brought up a good point, you know, to see the value, the immediate value. It's those hours that are being, you know, it's not the 10-minute project, half-hour project, 1-hour project. It's the 5-hour project. It's the, you know, the multiple personnel project that you'll see the immediate impact. We've seen, like you said earlier, you know, once you get it, it's like a kid in a candy store. You want more of it, want more of it. I think by automating that first process that you can see the immediate impact, let's say, you know, it's 3 employees that are doing 2 hours of work at 6 hours. That can be a benefit to all of them. That's like, okay, that's 2 hours each a day. That's 10, you know, that's 10 hours a week. That's 30 hours worth of work a week. That's the benefit of it, right? But the great thing about that is that at that point, the kid in the candy store, so to speak, is that once they see it happen, that's when they can start automating other processes that may not have to be that long, or maybe that it's a bigger pain point that can happen. But we've seen our clients that have done, we have actually one client that has 11 processes, and this client only has 12 employees, right? They've already automated because they worked on one that was a big bottleneck that took hours away. And then little by little, they start automating more and say, hey, can we add this one? It only takes me, you know, 15 minutes a day to do, but I don't want to do it anymore. Can we, you know, this is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand it. So that education is so important to really get to know it right away, because it's changing. And we've seen it even within our own organization. The price of all the software, the price and demand, so to speak, is starting to increase because people are starting to see the value of it. It's like, okay, wait a minute, you know, we offered at this price at one point, but now we got to offer at this price. We see the software price. It used to be this price now, and now it's being this price. So I think you brought up a good point. I just wanted to add on to that. I know you can say something, Rob. Go ahead.
No, that's good. That's good. We're coming in for a landing here. Last couple of questions, Zachery. One, what has been your experience working with Simply Automate?
I think Simply Automate has been a gem, to be honest with you. You know, when you think about you know, a company, you know, that you're relying upon to execute certain things, you know, you want them to be kind of like, you know, your pay to play stuff. You know, you want them to be responsive, you want them to be professional, flexible. You know, I think so by way of example, I was talking to a client and he said, we've looked at this RPA stuff before, you know, and I'm like, really? Like, well, why didn't you like it? And they're like, well, the guys said we're going to have to train on this OCR stuff for some crazy number of instances, tens of thousands. And I was like, tens of thousands. And I was like thinking about it, and I was like, why would it take tens of thousands? And I was like, they're just doing like straight off the shelf, like AI type of learning on this OCR stuff. And that's one way to do it, I guess. Like, you could rely fully on kind of your off the shelf stuff, but you know, if you're able to go in there with a sharp mind and a magnifying glass, like you can look at like the component parts that are leading into, you can look at the JSON from the OCR with human eyes and like understand like what that pattern is, and then you can code around that pattern, you know. And so some of these RPA companies will just take the off-the-shelf solution. You'll train, it's 10,000 records later, whatever. But then if you get with the right people, smart people that are willing to like go the extra mile to really make the customer experience amazing, then I think you're going to find, some great companies out there. And Simply Automate's been terrific in that regard, and Wilton and I, maybe you pull like a confidential disclosure on this podcast, or you could edit this out maybe, but like I think there's some patentable stuff, honestly, that we're working on with Wilton's team, and so we've had some early conversations about maybe some joint patent stuff, and I think it just makes us stronger, and it's like who are you going to hire? And I think you want to hire someone that's going to go above and beyond, and that's what we do at ZD3 Group, and I think that's what Wilton does at Simply Automate. And I think both winning solutions. Call them both, have them tag team your project, knock it out of the box, and I think you'll be fully satisfied. Rob will even do a podcast for you. He's amazing at it. Great hype man. He'll intro it for sure.
You know it. Exactly. That's fantastic. Final words of encouragement to our business leaders. So let's talk about our business owners, people getting ready to get started in business somewhere. Give them your best piece of business advice.
I think the best piece of advice is just check it out. Like, if nothing else, look one of them up. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure there's some links below that you can click some links, make some phone calls. If you want to go above and beyond, I would just say, just find some free space, to downshift out of your day-to-day stuff, think big, maybe write down some things that you want to automate, write down some of your pain points. These pain points could be anything from I'm having problems staffing in this area, to I feel like my labor cost to this function is too high, to it takes too long to do this, or there's too many manual mistakes being made. Like, what are you really trying to solve for? And I think that'll be fruitful to the conversations that you have, and I think you'll get the most out of them. But I would definitely say act now, give it a try, at least have that conversation with someone to see what they can do for you.
Speaking of links below, how can people get a hold of you? Like, let's say they're interested in knowing, more about RPA. They don't want, they really need to wrap their head around it. I know your experience. I've been privileged to work with you on the projects and be able to understand what you can do. But allowing our listeners to be able to know that, how can they contact you? What's the best way to contact you?
Wilton, I appreciate that. You can always email me, Zachery, Zachery .Burns, BURNS @ZD3group.com. They can call my cell, 404-345-2588. They may want to text. We haven't found a way to automate out all the spam calls, so
You're right.
Not all unknown calls get answered. But if you text me, let me know that you want to talk about RPA. I'll call you back as soon as possible. Love talking to people about this stuff, and I appreciate you guys having me on the show so I could speak about it some more. Hopefully it reaches some viewers and does some good out there. Oh,
I know it did, and I know it will. Zachery Burns, thank you for being with us, sharing some insight. And ladies and gentlemen, our phrase is educate so you can automate. If you can find a way to automate, you'll find a way to do things faster. And if you do it right and efficient, you'll do it better. I think better and faster is like peanut and butter and jelly. They just go well together. So, Zachery, thank you for being on the show. The links will be down in the description, also in our podcast notes of reaching out to Zachery, as well as reaching out to us, as well as watching more shows. Hope you learned something today. Will, any final words from you?
No, like I said, I think it's really important for people to really reach out, and I think talking to people with that are thought leaders and subject matter experts is important. And Zachery has a lot of experience. We're privileged to be working with him on some projects, and it's made our team a lot better. It's making our team a lot better. So reaching out to those that know this industry just to get that information is going to be important. So like I said, we'll leave that information in the details in the show notes. so you can reach out. But no, that's it, man. Zachery, thanks, man. Always good talking to you.
You as well. Thank you, guys.
The RPA Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know.